Malik, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. I know you have a lot going on. I understand you're actually in the middle of preparing for a live performance. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been a dancer?
So I have been a dancer for 17 years now.
Wow.
I mean, I started dancing 17 years ago. Um, and I would consider myself a professional dancer for the past like six years now. Well, when I first started, it was more so a hobby. Because like growing up, my mom put me in like every sport imaginable, and I was absolutely terrible in every single one of them. Um, and then my sister started dancing, and I was like, oh, that seems fun.
Hmm.
And then I realized that I actually, had some talent in it, and I was like, okay, well, this is what I can. This can be like my sport, since my mom didn't want us, just sitting around not being active in things. And so I think it wasn't until like middle school when I saw my first dance performance. And that's when I was like, oh, I didn't realize that you could do this professionally. Like you could really be a dancer, that could be your job.
Hmm.
Because, at least where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of representation of that.
Hmm.
And so then it was, that was my goal. Cause it was like, I love doing this. This is great. I'm really good at it, and there are avenues that I can take and be successful as a dancer. And so, like going into it, I knew it was going to be a lot of work, a lot of like constant training, even once you've made it, because our bodies are always changing as we grow older.
Hmm.
Dance is always changing as we grow older as well, and so you never want to become stagnant. You never want to like get left behind, or at least that's how I see it. So I knew it was going to be a lot of like work, a lot of dedication, a lot of just like pushing forward, but also knew it was going to be quite rewarding, because when you like get to perform and you're in front of an audience that's just giving you so much like positive and great energy, like that is an experience that um, can like it can't be replicated so easily.
Mhm.
um, for I guess the things that are a bit surprising about being a dancer that I didn't think much about is kind of the maintenance you have to do for your body, because I knew it was a lot of hard work. I knew it was a lot of training, but I didn't realize how much work you had to do outside of the studio to like continually make sure you're like able to perform,
Hmm.
at your highest level.
Hmm.
And that includes like, you know, um, going to the gym, doing, um, getting some more like endurance work, because in dance, you're not necessarily dancing for like an entire 30 minutes straight. There's a lot of start and pausing. So there's a lot of room for cardiovascular improvement, just like maintaining your body, stretching, dealing with injuries, strengthening weak parts of your body so that you're able to like avoid said injuries and also just perform better. There's a lot of mental health that goes into it that
Hmm.
um, one thing with dance is that you have to be so vulnerable and so emotional, like within your dancing. That's what makes a great performer than just a good performer. But
Hmm.
with that said, it does take a lot out of you, mentally and emotionally. So you also have to like care for yourself in that way,
Hmm.
whatever that may be for you. And um, it was just like the closer I've gotten to being a professional dancer and the more work I've done, I've realized that those things are just as important as what I do on the stage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Thank you. And on
Mhm.
that note, when you talk about the mind and the body and all the work that goes into both outside of the rehearsal space, the studio, I'd be interested to know kind of a little more about the process of you selecting to work with me. Can you tell me about kind of what was going through your mind at the time? Why you chose me over, other options, and what kind of the start of that process was like. And this was probably, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So another surprising thing that I realized about, being a professional dancer is that it is about like your talent and what you bring to the stage, but there's also um which I don't love as much, but there is a aesthetic, there is a physical aesthetic that um is desired when it comes to dance. And so it was kind of like this like never ending prophecy is like I want to work on it, but I'm also scared too because I'm scared of the gym and also don't know what to do in the gym and blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
And so how I thought of it was like, well, I want to be a dancer and I want to be the best dancer I can. So I do need to like work on my physical appearance and my aesthetic. So what steps do I need to do that? And I figured that since I'm I I want to get over this fear of the gym, and also I want to figure out what to do and like get a better understanding of my body and exercises and things like that. Like why don't I just reach out to a professional, someone who um has learned and trains and helps other people kind of reach their goals as well. Like you have a lot more information than I do. And so like, as a dancer, I go to dance teachers to help me work on my technique. So why don't I do the same when it comes to like the gym and working on my physique? Um, and I think part of the reason why I specifically reached out to you was even before I actually did reach out to you, I think I like followed you on Instagram
Mhm.
probably a couple years before that. And like I remember you would, every so often you would post videos about like, oh, you want to work on this part of your body. This is a great exercise here, like different levels and like all this stuff. Um, and so I could already see that you had a lot of information that would be beneficial to me. And also like knowing that you were gay made me feel a bit more comfortable, especially talking about things like this and kind of figuring out my physique. And also I feel like since I was gay and you were gay, there were certain things that you would understand about me wanting to work on my physique that maybe a straight man wouldn't understand. Um, and so that also added another level of comfortability. Um, and so it was just kind of like, all these different factors kind of just led in. And I was like, okay, well, now let's just do it. Because if I keep thinking about it, if I keep like wondering, like, oh, but what if, blah, 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 like nothing is ever going to change.
Mhm.
And I want it to change. And so I think
Mhm.
that's why I finally was just like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to reach out, see what he has to say, kind of see what, his prices are, what he's offering, and like then make a decision on whether I want to pursue it or not. And I did. So,
Mhm.
I do think it was worthwhile.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing all of that with me. I would be curious to know. So I think some people have an aha moment where they're like, the way things are right now has to change. And I think maybe for other people, it's more of like a slow build where like eventually you just reach a tipping point where it's like, okay, I think I'm ready now. Was would you say yours was more like did you have a moment? Can you recall a moment where you were like, I can't keep, I want to take my life and my body to the next level? Or was it more kind of just like that slow build for you?
You know, seeing the people who would get past cuts, like cuts in an audition,
Mhm.
kind of, you know, not, and also now that I have this kind of new awareness of this like physical aestheticness that is wanted in the dance scene, like not just looking at their talent, but also looking at them as like just physically what they look like, and also seeing a trend, you know, where, you know, more physically appealing or beautiful people do tend to go further.
Mm.
Um, and I actually, it's really weird. I don't know what post it was, but you posted something. It was like another one where you're just showing an exercise that, you know, you like, you can add this to your program or whatever and like see if it helps you, blah, 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 blah. And I remember commenting on it. Um, and like later after that, you like sent me a DM being like, hey, I saw that you commented on it. Like, I wanted to know if you like tried out the exercise, like what did you think, blah, 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 blah. Um, and that's kind of, you know, we started talking about that. And I think in that moment, I was kind of like, well, he's right here, you know, this person is right here. He has the knowledge. I feel like he can help me get to where I want to be. Um, and he's nice. Like, we're having a conversation, you know, he wants to know about kind of like what I'm doing, and like, you know, if what he's saying is actually helping me. He's like intrigued about, you know, my life or, you know, whatever. It was like, this sounds like someone not only that I can get information from, but someone I actually do want to work with. And like I said, after this whole slow build, it was like, okay, like why not? Let's just go for it. Because I want to change, and if I'm not going to make it, if I'm not going to try, then, you know, I can't be upset if nothing continues to change in the future, if that makes sense.
Mm. It does. It does make a lot of sense. Wow. Yeah. I'm just processing all of that. You bring up such an interesting concept, which is this concept of, okay, actually, I'm going to put this in my words. Listening to you, I'm not saying this is what you said, but what I just thought of listening to you is this concept of, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this because I think it's what society, or fill in the blank, a job, a whatever, wants me to do? You know, am I, and I think that's such a fascinating, no pun intended, because you're a dancer, dance between those two. And like, I still confront that dance sometimes. Um, so I feel like we could do a whole podcast, maybe a whole podcast series on this. But it's just, it's, and as you mentioned, especially for gay men, it is, I think it's on a deeper level. I mean, I've had a lot of, I have a coach right now, and he's straight and he's wonderful. And I've been with him for years. I've had clients who are straight guys who really want to bodybuild, but you know, so it's certainly not limited to us, but I think it's that deeper level, I think personally, of like shame that we were brought up with, and this desire to, like, you know, compensate for that by being beautiful and powerful. I'm speaking for myself. And I hear for you saying, and I can relate to this, of course, because the industry I'm in too, you know, your body is your business, or at least a big part of your business. And like, you know, earlier you talked about the mental health, how you got to pay attention to your mental health. And like that, you're bringing up so much good stuff. So I just want to thank you, because, you know, there's someone watching this who may not ever work with me, but they are listening to what you're saying, and they're maybe identifying with you, and they know they're not alone. And so, you know, I just really appreciate everything you've said so far. So when we did first start working together, I know early on we were able to get in face-to-face sessions, but is that exactly where we started? Do you recall, or was it initially? Do you remember exactly how we started?
Yeah, so it was quite it was quite a odd situation. Because when we started, I wasn't in the US at the time.
That's
I
right.
was
That's right.
um
Yes.
I was doing like I don't even know what to call it, but I was going to like several different countries in Europe and dancing in like different festivals and like little things. Um, and which is probably like this is probably like one of the like most kind of what's the word, spontaneous things that I've done. But like while in the middle of that, like literally in a different country, was just like, yeah, let's start, let's do it, like do it online. And then we planned on when I came back to the US to then work in person for a bit. But up until that point to do it um, online. And I think for me, part of that decision process was that because I'm a dancer, I did feel a bit more in touch with myself physically.
Mm.
Um, I think I have a better awareness of my body than like the average person.
Mm.
Someone who's never done bodybuilding at all versus me who's again never done bodybuilding, but like I've danced, and to be a dancer, you have to have an extreme awareness of your body.
Mm.
And so I felt like, if I got clear direction from you, I would be able to still, get like really beneficial results, even if we didn't work together, like in person when I
Mhm.
first started. Which I do believe, like I do believe, like even though we didn't work in person, like I still got a lot out of it. Um, so it was very interesting way to start working together. But I still think it worked out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. So we started out that way, and then you were in the States, and we were able to meet for sessions face to face. And then we went back to doing online training, which was
Mhm.
where you were for the next, if I'm not mistaken, couple years. I think there was at least about 2 years, um, you know, of that consistent online work. So, can you tell me a little bit about what your experience has been using the app, for example, that I programmed your workouts on?
I liked how I liked how the workouts were kind of categorized. And I really loved um like when I did a workout that I've done like weeks before, you could see if you like clicked a certain exercise, you could see the reps and the weight that you've done in the past.
Mhm.
Um, because for me, like I, which is something I'm working on, I get very impatient and I start to feel like, oh, I'm not improving, I'm not getting better, like what I'm doing something wrong. And like that was an easy way for me to like just click it and see like, well, no, that's not true. I am getting stronger, I am getting better, because I can see, like I can actually see the numbers
Mm.
that I am getting stronger. And where we're at emotionally and mentally every day is always very different. And so like
Mm.
some days I'm just feeling more tired or just like sad or whatever. So then I'm like, yeah, I'm not strong. I feel like I'm weak. I can't do anything. And then I'll look at that and be like, well, you may feel that way, Malik, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And
Mm.
so like that was just like a great like reminder, and it was so easy to access. Like that was probably one of my favorite things of the app, was just like being always able to just look at it and be like, okay, no, I'm doing fine, I'm doing well, don't get in your head, just like keep going. And also, yeah, and like also another thing I also really liked was that it felt like everything was kind of all in one place. So it was like, all the workouts are there. I could speak to you through the app directly. Um, all my nutrient stuff was also synced to there, so it's all in there, as
Mhm.
well as like my pictures and measurements. So I didn't have to go looking for things. If I needed to be reminded or whatnot, it was kind of all in one place, which again just makes it a lot easier, especially when you're having days where it's just like you're feeling crazy, or you feel like nothing's going right or whatever. And I can like look at my pictures from months ago and be like, well, I definitely don't look like that anymore. So,
Mm,
like I said, I may feel crummy,
mm.
but I'm looking at it and it is showing improvement. It is showing a difference. Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. So can you give me an example of one or two really major aesthetic changes that you experienced that brought you the most joy?
Yeah. Through the course of our work, I feel like physically that was probably the strongest I've ever been. Um, and I could also see it like, um, I could see the muscles on my body actually showing. I could, you know, I had that like defined kind of what did I call it? I think I called it like the Superman kind of upper body, where it was like wider shoulders while with a smaller kind of mid torso area,
Mhm.
which were all things that like I've looked at and I've admired, and always was like, oh well, I would love to have that, but probably can't happen. This type of mentality.
Mhm.
But like definitely, I was like looking at myself being like, oh wait, I'm looking at these photos and I'm like, this is what I wanted, and I'm actually looking like that. Like I can see it. I can see it there. Um, and so like that was just like something that was just so like it helped so much, especially um just on the harder days. It was like, yes, I'm getting stronger, but just like aesthetically, also I can see the changes as well. And I am, you know, working towards these goals, and we're getting somewhere. It's not just like hitting a brick wall every 2 seconds. And yeah, it was, I also like it, I was entering, this place in my life where I was able to look at myself in the mirror and like what I see. Because that's always, excuse me, that's always kind of been something I've struggled with as a dancer. Because, my body wasn't necessarily like all the other people that surrounded me. And so, it was hard for me to look at myself and like not be overly critical or, hate what I saw versus, working with you and like seeing the changes and like actually able to look at myself in the mirror and like give myself a compliment or just say like, wow, you look great today. Like, or like whatever, just things like that, which may seem stupid to some people, but like for me, it was, that's what I needed. That's what got me through. It was like, I was like, yeah, like I can look at myself in the mirror and just be like, yeah, I look great. And I can go on with my day, and not be afraid to look at myself in the mirror
Mhm.
because I'm scared of, the thoughts or the things that are going to like plague me afterwards. Yeah. Was like now I find myself being more conscious of what I'm buying and what I'm eating and things like that. Because I just feel like before, I'd be like, oh, that looks good. Let me get it. And that's great. And now I'll like look at that and be like, oh, that looks good. but it does have a lot of fat in it. So like maybe I'll avoid that one, or just like being a little bit more conscious of, what I'm ingesting, like looking at kind of the nutritional labels and, just trying to make better decisions for myself. So I'm eating better. And so in a way, I know like my biggest issue was kind of like always running, never having enough time. In the long run, it's kind of forced me to be more patient, forced me to look at, you know, look at the foods that I'm eating and making sure that I'm not, you know, filling myself up with a lot of things that I don't need. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. I would be interested to know, like, what are 2 or 3 things that you're really good at? They don't have to be anything related to your body, although they can be. Like, what are you realizing that you do better than almost anyone else out there?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think hmm, I do think that I reflect a lot, um on a lot of things. But specifically, with what we're talking, I think through this process, I've just it's made me think a lot more critically about, like I kind of said earlier, about what I'm ingesting, what I'm eating, um, how I'm approaching myself in dance and my body. I think like making smarter choices for myself, and and because right now I think I am dancing a lot more than I was when I was working with you. And so that for me, that means I can't necessarily work out as hard as I did when I was working with you,
Mhm.
and finding that balance, and not overly killing myself, um, because of it. Because, I think it would have been easy to just push myself and just do 100% everything. And I feel like that would have led to injury or burnout or something else. But I feel like because of the work that we've done, I'm able to like, um, I'm trying to find the word that I want to use, but like, I'm looking at it a lot. I'm looking at it smarter. Like even if I can't 100% go in a workout because I had a really grueling day at work, I'm able to look at like what I want to do and say, okay, well, I still want to do it. So how about I put, a bit more energy in maybe my upper body than my lower body, because my lower body's killing me from dancing all day,
Mhm.
instead of like doubling down on the lower body. So then tomorrow I'm not even able to walk.
Mhm.
That's an exaggeration, but like just like decisions like that I feel like I in the past didn't really make, because I was just like, oh, I need to do everything. I need to do everything if I want to be the best, and just like go for it. But now it's more about the longevity of it. Like, I want to be able to dance for a very long time. And I want to have a body that I can maintain for a long time as well. Um, and so figuring out those decisions and figuring out what I need to do to make both of those things be true, because I don't think that they're mutually exclusive, with the time that I do have, because, you know, time is very finite.
Mm.
I don't even know if I answered the question.
Well, I'm resonating so much with what you're talking about. And yeah, well, the first thing you said is that you're reflective more than other people. And I can identify with that. And oh, sorry, was there something you wanted to add?
No. I was just remembering. Yeah, that was the question.
You talk basically what I'm hearing is, and I'm putting this in my own words, is this concept of letting go of perfectionism, or at least trying to, and focusing more on sustainability and practicality. Letting go of the all or nothing. Oh, I've either got to have 100% workout where I get great effort all the way through and I finish the very last rep of the very last set, or if I can't do that, then I'm not going to go in. Versus, okay, man, I would love to have the time, energy, you know, the all the resources to do a perfect workout every time, but today that's not where I'm at. Man, that stinks. I'm talking about how I go into this, but I'm going to do what I think is the best thing for myself. And some days that is not working out, but a lot of the time it is going to the gym and doing what feels right. And then when the time is up, or when, you know, I've hit the wall, it's like, okay, I'm going to leave the gym now. And that's so hard, I think, for a perfectionist like me at heart, or at least that's how I was raised to embody. And I think that's another thing that anyone in society, in the world, can experience. I think every human in the world past a certain age does understand what that feels like. But I think that as gay people, it's deeper within us, because I said this earlier, like that shame. And so perfectionism, we think, is a way to compensate for that. We're going to become the best, the most beautiful, the most powerful, because we're going to earn our love. Our, you know, we're not unconditioned. We're not lovable just by virtue of being ourselves. We've got to earn it. And so that had, and so I can identify with what you're saying about how that mentality has held me back, or thwarted me, or given me a lot more pain in the past versus today, where I still have my struggles. But it seems a little bit more relaxed. It seems a little bit more gentle. It seems a lot more humane on me. So thank you for that. I would be interested to know, what would you say to someone who is of the mindset that you can only get good results from working with a coach or a trainer in person?
Hmm. I find that question very, very interesting, especially because of, you know, the past couple of years, specifically, uh, you know, going through quarantine and being stuck at home. And as a dancer, being one of the worst kind of situations to be put in, because it's nearly impossible to do a ballet class in a 2 by 2 foot bedroom in New York City. Um, and I was very like, I was still in that mindset of like, go, you have to do it, and it has to be great, it has to be amazing, it has to be perfect to get any results, or you don't do it at all. And that wasn't an option. Like, the go big or go home was not an option in this situation. And so it really forced me to look at the situation and say, well, it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be what I want it to be, but what can I do to still make it a beneficial experience? And I think, and I say all that because I think it relates a lot to working with a personal trainer in person versus, you know, online, or, you know, whatnot, because there's this idea, and I even had this idea, that you can only get these results if you go 100%. Like, you're in there with the personal trainer, they are putting their hands on you and they're doing everything, you know, that's the only way to get meaningful results. And I don't believe that anymore, like, at all. I mean, there are a lot of benefits to being in person,
Mm-hmm.
but you can still get so much out of it even if you're not in person. And for someone who did both in person and online with you, I can attest to that, where working with you in person was great. I was getting like the cues, specific cues. I was getting like the you know, the you just like being there pushing me to work harder. Like that was all great. But I also do feel like when I was working with you online, there was still that push. There was still was that pressure of just, you kind of being there and being like, you can do it, like, let's get these workouts, like, or you noticing like, hey, you did more reps this time than that last time. Like,
Mhm.
that's amazing. And like, even if we're not in the same room doing that workout, there's still the attention that you give as if you were there. You were looking at my notes, you were looking at my workouts, you were noticing things, you were looking at um my nutrition and my macros, and you were very attentive. And so like that attention that I think people may feel is not going to be there, not going to be, as prevalent um, when you're not in person, was there. And I think for me, I think what was most important is like you get out of it what you put in. And so, you know, if I'm truthful about my workouts, like the reps I'm doing, the weight I'm doing, like maybe one day it's, I didn't do as many reps, but I still put 12. Like that's only going to hurt me, versus if I'm truthful and then we can talk about it. And like we've had many, many talks on the app about progress, about nutrition, about what, what you could do to help me get my goals, what I can do to help me get my goals. How do we, work? How do we like, what do we, sorry, words, what can we do together to like keep, moving forward, and what can we do in this relationship to keep moving forward? And so like you kept me accountable, you kept me responsible, you kept me, you know, you asked questions, you kept me kind of like I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but like if you really put in what you want out of it, you will get it. And for
Mm,
me, it was I needed someone who, even if you're not going to be there
mm,
with me in person, you're still going to be on me. You're still going to be like, hey, you know, you didn't log, like what's going on? Um, and that was like, oh yeah, I need a log. I need to remember to keep logging. So then we have things to talk about. And if we're not seeing results, or we're not seeing any kind of improvement, then we can look at the logging, or we can look at the workouts and see what we can work on, or X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I do think it is can be very, very beneficial, especially. Oh, and that's the other thing. I didn't even think about this until now. I think in a way, online was even better for me because my schedule was so frantic and was never the same. Um, it's so hard for me to have like planned things outside of dance, just because things change so often. And it's really hard to work with a personal trainer because you're not their only client. And so it's like, if something were to change with me, it's not just like you finding another space in my schedule. I also have to find a space in your schedule.
mm.
But with how crazy my schedule was, um, being online helped so much, because then it was like I can do the workouts when I can.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I can like talk to you when I can. I can do this when I can, when it works for me, because sometimes I have to go to audition, and like the audition goes 3 hours later, and it's like
Mm, mhm,
I don't know that's going to happen until it's happening. And like
mhm.
not all the time I'll have the chance to be like, hey Brandon, I'm stuck in audition, I might be able to make it, but I don't know. Versus online, that was never an issue,
Mhm.
because then I can just do the workout when I finished, whenever that may have come. And so that flexibility, I think, was worked even better for me. just with my lifestyle and everything.
I love that. I completely agree with that. Um, we've been on the call for just about an hour, and so I want to be respectful of your time and your energy. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm
You're
doing
good?
awesome.
Can I ask a couple more questions?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I guess actually before I get into the next question, I'll just kind of I'll kind of respond to something you said, and I'm partially saying this to you, and I'm partially saying this to someone who may be watching this and considering whether or not I'm the right fit for them. You know, what you, Malik, just said is like so astute, because basically I think I'm best suited for people who don't struggle terribly with motivation. I think for a student to succeed with me, they're going to need their own motivation. I can meet them halfway. I'm not asking them to feel 100% motivated every day, but if that fire isn't there, and then it's going to be a really tough time, because that accountability portion of showing up to see a personal trainer is not there unless the person is working with me in person, which most of my clients do not do. But the benefit is that flexibility that you just talked about, among many other things. It's also much more cost effective than seeing a personal trainer, even just once a week, let alone 2 or 3 times a week. So yeah, on the topic of finances, you worked with me for years, plural. And you're young, and you're hustling. And so I know that it could not have been easy for you to just, I know that money wasn't just sitting on a shelf. I know you had to earn it, and you must have had to have sacrificed things to be able to afford the services that I offered. So can you tell me maybe like one sacrifice or change you had to make in your life in order to have the funds to work with me? And looking back on it now, do you feel like that sacrifice was worthwhile?
Um, yeah, I think another one of the reasons why I ended up working with you was because I actually, so like right before we first started working together, I actually excuse me, I did this one job. I worked with Radio City. I did the Christmas Spectacular, and that is one of the best paying gigs for a dancer in New York City. Um, and because of that, I was able to save a lot of money that most dancers aren't able to do. Um, and so for me, that was also a great factor, because it was like I actually do have funds that I can use to help better myself.
Mm.
Um, I can't say I'll always have it, but right now this is something that I really want, and I think is going to be very beneficial to me. So like, let me do that. And so like I did Radio City 2 times, so I did have a good amount of funds for me, and I was able to go about working with you. I think in terms of like things that I had to sacrifice, I mean, because I was using those funds for personal training, I wasn't able to live alone, which is something I still would like to do. But that was something I had to sacrifice, which to me wasn't that big of a sacrifice, just because I feel like I'm young. And so, like, I can deal with other people versus, in years from now, I think I'll eventually want my own place because I'll be tired of dealing with people. But I haven't crossed that bridge yet. So, like, that was one thing. You know, I also I don't know if it was much of a sacrifice, but something that helped a lot was I actually got one of my part-time gigs was working at a gym, which meant I got a free gym membership, which means I wasn't spending that money
Mm-hmm.
at the gym. That meant I could spend it working with you. And so it was also like, well, I'm also going to keep this because then I won't have to worry about that, especially while I'm working with a personal trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't have to worry about, also paying the monthly kind of dues for a gym. I guess in a way it's kind of a sacrifice because I had to keep working there. Because it's only part-time and whatever. But again, I felt like you know, that was a necessary sacrifice, or that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. And looking back on both of them, you know, I do think, I mean, would it be great to live alone or have more money in my pocket? Obviously. Um, but then I wouldn't have gotten all the information I've received from you. And, something that I think for me made it so worthwhile working for you wasn't just about, getting my physical goals. Yes, that was the reason why I started working with you. But I think through working with you, I have gained so much information about myself, about how I like to work, about, what, like I was telling you about now dancing and going to the gym. Like going to the gym is now something that I do. And now if I never worked with you, I don't know if I would ever have done that because I was so afraid of it. And now I'm like doing both, and they're both a part of my life, and I enjoy it being a part of my life. I have a new awareness for my body that's not just a dancer's awareness, but also just in a bodybuilding way, or like if I want to build certain muscles or work a certain way, I have more information that I can use. And, you know, a lot of the things you said to me, that helped motivate me or helped, get my butt to the gym and just like do it. And like the whole idea that you were talking about like, not every day you have 100%, but you can go in and work and do X, Y, and Z and still get benefits from that workout.
Mhm.
Is like what I literally got that from you, because I remember you telling me that, because I, was dealing with burnout from dancing so much and doing all these hustling gigs
Mhm.
and also trying to work out. And it was like, well, I don't have the energy, so I'm just not going to work out. And I don't think that is necessarily the best decision. And so I've gained so much as a person that, yes, not having as much money and also still living with roommates, um, I think those sacrifices are definitely worth it, personally, for me.
What would you say to someone who's thinking of working with me?
Um, I think you should go for it if you're thinking about it. I think it's not easy. I don't think really working with any personal trainer is easy. Um, and so know that it won't be easy, but you will gain a lot from working with a personal trainer, but also working with you specifically. I remember some of the bet like I'm someone, and this may sound weird, I'm someone who like despises exercising.
Mm.
And I know I'm a dancer, but dancing is not exercise to me. So, um, and I just remember when we used to work together, like the conversations we would also have, and just like you as a person would make it feel a bit more fun than if I, was just doing it alone. Like I remember actually looking forward to working out with you, and also looking forward to your workout plans that you had me do. Like they were interesting. They, you know, you kept changing them up so you wouldn't get bored. Like, you kept it kind of moving. So it was always working on something new, always working on um, working on different muscle groups and also just different exercises and what the exercises we're working on, whether it be endurance and strength. And um, I love that part of it because, again, just the idea of exercising is already so mundane to me
Mm.
that any help to make it not mundane is like thoroughly like appreciated. And yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it is hard. It it is a financial commitment, but I enjoyed it and I gained a lot out of it. And I'm sure you will too if you do choose to work with Brandon, as if I'm talking to someone else, but
Yeah.
you know.
Thank you. All right. So what are two songs that you feel like are your favorite that have such special meaning to you, or remind you of very important moments in your life or evoke really important feelings?
Ooh, that's such a hard question, but
It's not like
um,
it's not like, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm not saying that these are like your two favorite songs and it's just two of your favorite songs. So that way you don't have to feel like you're excluding the ones that you don't mention.
yeah. um, yeah, I think
Are you a music person? Does music stir you or not so much?
yeah, it definitely does. I've loved music ever since I was younger, and I think that also feeds into why I love dance so much.
Mm.
Um, I'm thinking like I also have this like I have a gym playlist on my Spotify that I love that gets me through, especially those days when I'm like, oh, I'm here again.
Mhm.
But one of the songs on there is called "I Feel Good" by Mary J. Blige,
Mm.
and it's all about her just like feeling her oats. She's like, I'm wearing this dress, I look great, I feel great, no one can tell me anything else. And like honestly, like that is the best feeling, especially on the days where I'm like I'm not feeling strong, or like you know I'm looking in the mirror, I'm seeing like all these like super buff people around me.
Mm.
But then I'll listen to that song and it's like, no, I feel good. Like I look good. I look great. I feel great. And no one can tell me anything else. And that is the end of that. And so like that one is a really good one. I also love Sorry Not Sorry by Demi Lovato.
Yes. Oh.
It's so good. Um, it's along the same lines, but it's just like, they're just so unapologetic for being the bad bitch that they are. And so, you know, just like, especially in cardio, I feel like having that feeling like gets me through the end of cardio because, if anything, cardio is one of the most monotonous parts of exercising. And so like having that, just like that feeling of just being that bad bitch, excuse my language, it just keeps pushing me through to the finish line. And also I just love Demi Lovato, so that's also a plus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the most played songs on my iTunes.
Oh
Um,
really?
yeah, yeah. So what's something that you feel like you really want to get done with your life? I mean, you've already accomplished so much. Do you feel pulled? Do you feel called to do you feel you were put here to do something in particular? What's like a really important goal that whether or not it manifests the way you'd like it to, what's something that you are working towards, in a bigger sense?
Yeah. So it's not super concrete yet. it's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I've been doing things to kind of work towards it. Um, but again, it's not concrete, so I don't know what it is I want to necessarily achieve, or if there even is a way to achieve it. But I want, I want, I want there to be a time and place where where young Black boys don't have to question if they can be a dancer. I want there to be a time and space where you know they can see dance and they can see themselves in it. Um, they can see it as something that is something that they can pursue, whether it be professionally or just as a hobby. That they feel like they belong, and that they feel like they have a place there. Because I didn't have that, unfortunately. And I did have very, very few instances of like I said, when I first saw my first dance performance, and I was like, oh wow, like this is something that I can do. Um, but that was because, I was very privileged in kind of the experiences that my parents kind of afforded me. But before then, I didn't see much representation at all. And so, you know, I want to break down those walls, break down those barriers, so that these kids can shoot for the stars without feeling like they don't belong, or it's not something that they can achieve, or any of those stupid but real kind of barricades and barriers in life. Again, it's like a lofty kind of idealistic goal. um I don't even know if it's something that can be achieved within my lifetime, but it's something that I am passionate about, and I hope to make ways in kind of destroying that, those barriers and those blockades for, people behind me. Yeah.
I really love that. Thank you. All right. Cheat meal. No holds barred. What does that look like for you?
Oh, that's easy. That is a Big Mac from McDonald's with a large fry.
Mm, mm,
That is
mm,
that is my go-to
mm.
when I just need something comforting.
That, wow. Oh man. Oh man. Yum. Good for you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share, or like let someone hear? And it doesn't have to be about our work. It could just be anything else, because I was so moved by what you just said in the last question. Yeah, anything else you wanted to share with us?
Um, I don't think so. Thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me questions and stuff, and it's good to see you again. It's been so long.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen you for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
even on a screen, let alone in real life. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end not the meeting, but just the recording now.